cast Earth aside and watched in horror as we forged a greater empire. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the crystalline hall of the Galactic Senate, watching as species after species raised their appendages in condemnation. The Zephyrians with their translucent wings, the Karathi with their chitinous shells, the Veiltar with their flowing energy forms, all united in their judgment of humanity. By decree of this Senate, Speaker Thyros announced, his four eyes gleaming with satisfaction, the species known as Terrans are hereby expelled from regulated space. Your homeworld of Earth is classified as quarantine territory. Any attempt to leave your system will be met with immediate destruction. The hall erupted in approving clicks, hisses, and harmonic tones. Sarah's jaw tightened. Around her, the few remaining human diplomats stood in stunned silence. Decades of peaceful cooperation, shattered in a single session. "You fear what we represent," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the alien cacophony. "We adapt too quickly. We learn too fast. We refuse to accept limitations you consider absolute." She stepped forward, ignoring the energy barriers that hummed to life. "Today you cage us. Tomorrow you'll realize you've only made us desperate." Theros's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Empty threats from a broken species. Guards, escort these specimens to their transport." As they dragged her from the chamber, Sarah caught the eye of Ambassador Kexon, the only senator who hadn't voted. The reptilian being's head crest flattened, a sign of shame among his people. He knew this was wrong. They all did. But fear had won. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. The Senate had provided a single transport, stripped of all advanced technology. No quantum drives, no FTL communications, no defensive systems. Just enough fuel to reach home and deliver the verdict. Sarah stood on the observation deck, watching Earth grow larger through the viewport. The blue marble that had birthed humanity now served as their prison. Cities sprawled across the continents, unaware that their fate had been sealed in a distant hall of glass and contempt. Captain Torres joined her, his weathered face grim. "What do we tell them, Admiral?" "The truth," Sarah replied, "that we've been abandoned by those we called allies, that the galaxy has decided we're too dangerous to exist among them." Her reflection stared back from the viewport, scarred from battles fought in the name of galactic peace, and that we're going to prove them right. The revelation shattered human civilization, temporarily. Riots erupted in major cities. Stock markets collapsed. Governments fell as populations demanded answers their leaders couldn't provide. For 6 months, chaos reigned as humanity grappled with their new reality. But then, something remarkable happened. The same adaptability that had terrified the Senate began to manifest on a global scale. Dr. Elena Vasquez was the first to crack the quantum barrier without alien technology. Working from a laboratory beneath the ruins of Geneva, she reverse-engineered salvage components from derelict alien vessels. Her breakthrough came at 0347 hours on a Tuesday morning, successful faster-than-light communication using purely human innovation. "They wanted to isolate us," she told the emergency session of the reformed United Earth Council. "They didn't count on human ingenuity." Within a year, underground facilities across Earth hummed with activity. The Sahara installation focused on weapons research. The Antarctic complex developed stealth technology. The Pacific Deep Labs worked on biological enhancements for human crews. And beneath the Colorado Mountains, Project Prometheus built humanity's first true warship. Sarah, now Supreme Admiral of the Terran Defense Force, walked through the Prometheus facility with a mixture of pride and grim determination. The ship taking shape before her bore no resemblance to the sleek, aesthetic vessels of the Senate races. It was angular, predatory, designed for one purpose: war. "Status report," she commanded. Chief Engineer Reyes wiped grease from his hands. "Hull integrity at 98%. Weapon systems online. The new quantum torpedoes are ready for testing." He grinned fiercely. "This beauty will give those alien bastards nightmares." "Good," Sarah replied, "because they're about to get very familiar with our work." The first test came sooner than expected. A Senate patrol, 3 Karathi vessels conducting quarantine enforcement, detected unusual energy signatures from Earth's outer system. They moved to investigate, confident in their technological superiority. They never made it home. The ambush was surgical. Cloaked human fighters materialized around the patrol, weapons charged with plasma derived from Earth's own sun. The Karathi shields, designed to repel traditional energy weapons, crumpled under the onslaught. Within minutes, 3 proud warships became expanding clouds of debris. One human ship remained visible long enough to broadcast a message on all Senate frequencies. From the imprisoned species of Earth, we are no longer content to remain caged. The broadcast reached every Senate world within hours. Panic followed in its wake. On the crystalline homeworld of the Zephyrians, High Commander Zelthanor convened an emergency session. How is this possible? We destroyed their technology. We severed their connections. They built new technology, came the response from Intelligence Director Cax. Better technology. Our scouts report massive construction projects across their world. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. Zelthanor's wings fluttered with anxiety. Ready the fleets. We end this before it spreads. But humanity had learned the lessons of their exile well. When the Senate Armada arrived at Earth, 300 ships strong, representing a dozen species. They found empty space. No orbital defenses, no human vessels. Just silence. The trap closed with brutal efficiency. Human ships emerged from asteroid fields, from behind lunar facilities, from the void between planets. They moved with coordinated precision, striking at command vessels and communication arrays. The Senate fleet, configured for overwhelming force against a stationary target, foundered in chaos. Admiral Sarah Chen commanded from the bridge of the TDF Retribution, watching as years of planning came to fruition. "Target their flagships first," she ordered. "Cut off their heads." The Zephyrian command ship, Celestial Grace, died in the first volley. Quantum torpedoes punched through its crystalline hull, detonating its exotic matter core. The shockwave consumed 2 escort vessels and sent the remainder into panic. "All units converge on grid 77, came the desperate transmission from acting Senate Commander Thyros, the same being who had pronounced humanity's exile. "Reform defensive positions," Sarah smiled coldly. "Negative," she broadcast on all frequencies. "Today you learn what happens when you corner the human species." The battle raged for 6 hours. When the last Senate ship either fled or burned, 200 vessels lay scattered across Earth's system. Humanity had lost 12 ships. The message was clear. The balance of power had shifted. In the aftermath, Sarah stood once again on an observation deck, this time aboard humanity's newest flagship. But instead of watching Earth recede, she gazed at the stars beyond. The galaxy that had rejected them now lay open, vulnerable to human expansion. Captain Torres approached, his uniform now bearing the insignia of the Terran Empire. "Orders, Admiral?" "We take what was denied to us," Sarah replied. "Every system, every world, every resource they claimed we weren't worthy to touch." Her reflection in the viewport showed a woman transformed by purpose and betrayal. "They wanted to contain us to one world. Instead, they'll watch as we claim them all." The expansion began immediately. Human colony ships, protected by escort fleets, surged into the void. They bypassed Senate worlds initially, focusing on resource-rich systems that had been claimed but never settled. Within 2 years, the Terran Empire controlled 50 star systems and growing. Each new world became a fortress. Each asteroid belt became a shipyard. Each gas giant became a fuel depot for humanity's expanding fleet. The Senate, paralyzed by internal debate and fear, could only watch as their former prisoners carved out an empire in their midst. The first Senate delegation arrived at Kepler Station, humanity's newest military outpost, flying flags of truce. Ambassador Thyros, humbled and desperate, requested an audience with Admiral Chen. She received him in the station's war room, surrounded by tactical displays showing human expansion across the local arm of the galaxy. Thyros's 4 eyes darted nervously between the screens. "Admiral Chen," he began, his translator device struggling with his species' stress harmonics, "the Senate wishes to renegotiate our previous arrangement." Sarah didn't look up from her reports. There is no arrangement, Thyros. You exiled us. We adapted. End of negotiation. Please, Thyros pressed, his natural arrogance replaced by desperation. Your expansion threatens critical Senate shipping lanes. Perhaps we could establish boundaries? Now Sarah did look up, her gaze like winter steel. You had your chance for boundaries. You chose to make Earth a prison instead of a partner. She gestured to the tactical displays. Now you get to live with the consequences. The Senate could offer reparations, technology transfers, favorable trade. What could you possibly offer us that we haven't already surpassed? Sarah interrupted. Your quantum drives? We built better ones. Your energy weapons? Ours burn hotter. Your sensor nets? We ghost through them like they don't exist. Thyrus's mandibles clicked in distress. Then what do you want? Sarah stood, her presence filling the room with quiet menace. I want you to remember this moment. I want you to carry it back to your precious Senate and tell them exactly what they created when they cast Earth aside. She stepped closer, forcing the alien diplomat to crane his neck upward. We are no longer the species that begged for acceptance. We are the nightmare that comes for those who mistake mercy for weakness. The delegation left within the hour, carrying Sarah's ultimatum: complete withdrawal from all systems within 50 light-years of human space, or face the full might of the Terran Empire. The Senate's response came in the form of a war fleet, 2,000 ships drawn from every member species. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history, commanded by the legendary Karathi War Prime Zexcon aboard the dreadnought Infinite Resolve. The humans met them at the Nexus Point, a contested system rich in rare elements. But this wasn't the scattered ambush tactics of Earth's defense. This was a formal battle line, 500 human warships in perfect formation, their black hulls gleaming with menace. Admiral Sarah Chen had transferred her flag to the TDF Nemesis, humanity's first true battleship. As the two fleets closed to weapons range, she opened communications to all vessels, human and alien alike. 4 years ago, you judged us unfit to stand among the stars. Her voice echoed across both fleets. You believed isolation would break us. You believed fear would control us. You believed we would simply fade away. A pause pregnant with promise. Today you learn the cost of underestimating human resolve. The battle began with a coordinated human alpha strike. Every ship fired simultaneously, their quantum torpedoes converging on the Senate's capital ships. The Infinite Resolve, protected by overlapping shields and point defense systems, weathered the storm, barely. 24 other command vessels weren't as fortunate. But the Senate fleet was vast, and their return fire lit space like a newborn star. Human ships took hits, armor ablating under exotic energy beams. The destroyer TDF Defiant took a direct hit to her engine core and vanished in nuclear fire. All ships implement Protocols 7 and 12, Sarah commanded. Show them what we learned in the dark. The human formation shifted, individual ships becoming components of a larger organism. They moved with inhuman precision, covering each other's flanks, creating crossfire zones that trapped Senate vessels in deadly embrace. Where the aliens relied on individual prowess and overwhelming firepower, humans fought as a coordinated whole. War Prime Zexcon watched his perfectly planned assault disintegrate into chaos. How are they predicting our movements? He demanded of his tactical officer. Unknown, War Prime. Their response time suggests they're anticipating our commands before we issue them. They were. Years of exile had taught humanity to study their former captors obsessively. Every Senate species' tactical doctrine, every commander's psychological profile, every weakness in their military philosophy, all cataloged and exploited. The tide turned when the human fleet's true innovation revealed itself. From the belly of each major vessel, smaller craft emerged. Not fighters, but automated weapons platforms guided by artificial intelligence. The Senate had banned AI research as too dangerous, but humanity had no such restrictions. The AI drones swarmed through the Senate formation like angry wasps, too small for capital ship weapons, but armed with precision-guided warheads. They targeted critical systems, sensor arrays, weapon mounts, engine clusters. Within minutes, dozens of Senate ships found themselves blind, defenseless, or dead in space. Impossible, Sexicon breathed, watching his fleet dissolve around him. No species has ever. His words were cut off as quantum torpedoes punched through the Infinite Resolve's failing shields. The great dreadnought, pride of the Karathi fleet, began to break apart under the assault. Sarah watched from the Nemesis's bridge as enemy resistance crumbled. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Begin recovery operations for our damaged vessels. Let the aliens tend to their own." Captain Torres frowned. "Admiral, standing orders are to rescue survivors regardless of—" "Those standing orders," Sarah interrupted, "were written when we believed in galactic cooperation. Today we learn the truth about our neighbors." She gestured to the debris field that had once been the greatest fleet in known space. "They came here to exterminate us. Let them explain to their families why their heroes float in vacuum." The aftermath was swift and brutal. News of the Battle of Nexus Point spread across the galaxy within days. The Senate's supposedly invincible fleet had been shattered by the species they'd dismissed as primitives. Panic gripped civilian populations, while military commanders demanded explanations that didn't exist. On worlds throughout Senate space, human agents emerged from deep cover. They'd been placed years earlier, during the initial exile period, with orders to await activation. Now they struck simultaneously at communications hubs, military installations, and government centers, not to conquer, but to demonstrate humanity's reach. The message was simple. Nowhere was safe from human retribution. Within a month, 3 Senate member species had withdrawn from the alliance entirely. The Veltar dissolved their military and declared neutrality. The Karathi began secret negotiations with human representatives. Even the proud Zephyrians started fortifying their homeworld against the inevitable human advance. Sarah received their surrender offers aboard the Nemesis as it orbited the former Senate capital world of Centros Prime. The crystalline cities below gleamed in the light of their blue sun, untouched by war but paralyzed by fear. "They're begging," Captain Torres reported, reading the latest transmission. "Complete technological exchange, territorial concessions, even offering to disband Senate entirely." Sarah considered the offer for exactly 3 seconds. "Tell them we'll consider their surrender after they've experienced what they tried to do to us." "Ma'am?" "Exile, Captain. Every Senate species gets to experience isolation in their home systems for exactly as long as they imprisoned us." Sarah's smile was sharp as broken glass. 4 years should give them time to reflect on their choices. The new order took shape quickly. Human fleets established blockades around every former Senate world, cutting them off from interstellar travel and communication. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah. The same species that had once voted to cage humanity now found themselves imprisoned by their own fears. But unlike the Senate's spiteful isolation of Earth, human blockades allowed for basic necessities and medical supplies. They weren't interested in genocide, merely education. "Let them learn what we learned," Sarah explained to the Terran Council. "That isolation breeds innovation. That desperation drives evolution. That being cast aside doesn't mean being forgotten." Years passed. The galaxy adapted to human dominance with the same reluctance they'd once shown toward human participation. Trade flowed through human-controlled space lanes. Colonies flourished under Terran protection. New technologies emerged from human research facilities that made the old Senate innovations look primitive. And on Earth, now the capital of an empire spanning hundreds of worlds, Sarah Chen stood once more on an observation deck. But this time she wasn't alone. Her granddaughter, Captain Lisa Chen of the TDF Enterprise, joined her in watching the stars. "Was it worth it?" Lisa asked, her young face serious. "All the war? All the bloodshed?" Sarah considered the question, remembering the frightened diplomats in the crystalline hall, the desperate battles in the void, the weight of decisions that shaped the fate of species. "They gave us 2 choices," she finally replied. "Accept their cage or break it. We chose to break it so thoroughly they could never cage anyone again. And now? Now we build something better. Not a Senate of the privileged, but an empire of the worthy." Sarah's reflection showed an older woman, Scarred by conflict, but unbowed by adversity, they cast Earth aside thinking it would weaken us. Instead, they forged us into something stronger than they ever imagined. In the distance, human ships moved between the stars, carrying colonists to new worlds, protecting trade routes, defending the growing empire against all threats. The species that had once been deemed unfit for galactic civilization now stood as its undisputed masters. The exile was over. The age of humanity had begun. And in the halls of the former Senate, empty now except for cleaning drones and fading memories, a single inscription remained on the wall where the Terran delegation had once stood trial. They thought exile was our ending. They were wrong. It was our beginning. The galaxy had learned, too late, that casting aside humanity had been their greatest mistake. For in trying to contain the human spirit, they had instead unleashed it upon the stars, and nothing would ever be the same.